Heather Hopper's Hollywood. Miss Hopper is just going on the air. Will you listen, please? Heather Hopper's Hollywood. Miss Hopper is just going on the air. Please listen.
Tired of the everyday routine? Never dream of a life of romantic adventure? Want to get away from it all?
The Adventures of the Saint, starring
Clara Kimball Young.
Later in the program, we have a rare radio treat for you. Mary Pickford.
Ladies and gentlemen, Gloria Swanson.
Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Blanche Sweet.
I still love the radio, although television is fine. A wife, if she's truthful, will make this admission. Against her funding neckline, there's too much competition. There's nothing like radio for having a wonderful time.
This is Gloria Swanson. It was a great pleasure to appear on tonight's broadcast.
Ever since I got my first radio as a child, I have been in search of sounds. Comforting, mysterious, terrifying, enticing. Tuning in, I was eavesdropping on a hidden realm, the passage to which was the canal of an eager ear pressed close against the speaker. It was my keyhole to the world about which I knew yet little, a world to which I did not yet belong.
Anything you say, Harry?
Hello, my name is Harry Heuser, and I am inviting you to listen in with me as I revel in sounds, as I recall and call forth the voices from the past, as I talk back at and engage with them.
But, Harry, I'm not a reporter.
In this, my third podcast, I'm going to feature the voices of the silent screen.
All right, Harry, I'll do it.
Actresses most associated with an era whose end coincided with the beginnings of commercial network broadcasting in the U.S.
Did you hear that?
The impact sound had on silent stars has been exaggerated at times, considering that so many of them transitioned well, although perhaps not effortlessly, from the art of pantomime to the soundstage.
How do you feel now, honey?
Terrible.
Oh, gosh, I hate to see you feel like this. Ain't there anything I can do for you?
No, just go away. Go away and let me die in peace.
Oh, don't talk like that. Why, you ain't gonna die. Folks don't pass out on account of a little seasickness.
I'm going to. I never felt like this in all my life.
Yeah, but we've only been out 7 hours, honey.
It seems like 7 years.
That was silent screen star Clara Kimball Young feeling queasy during a Lux Radio Theatre production of The Plutocrat. Considering that she had played second fiddle to Chandu the Magician on the screen just a few years earlier, she did quite well here in bed with Wallace Beery.
Oh, Mama,
After 25 years, 25 years, this has to happen.
It might have been a frustrating period of adjustment. Ill-favored vocal cords, tedious coaching, the occasional voice double, some suicides even. But sound cannot be said to have silenced professionals who, in many cases, also had worked on the stage, in vaudeville, and the legitimate theatre. Theda Bara, for instance.
You ought to be ashamed.
Motion Pictures' original vampire, a major box office star prior to the 1920s, Miss Bara had starred in the Broadway play The Blue Flame. It was not her voice, but the voice of her husband that kept her off the screen. He insisted on her staying out of the limelight, whereas Miss Bara continued to express interest in reviving her acting career. On June 8th, in 1936, she was heard making such an announcement to director W.S. Van Dyke. To the crowd inside Hollywood's Music Box Theatre, who came to see Myrna Loy and William Powell reenact their first Thin Man picture for radio, and to the millions listening in at home to the following Lux Radio Theatre broadcast.
As you know, these broadcasts from the Lux Radio Theatre are quite an event in Hollywood, and among our many friends here tonight is one of the greatest stars of the silent pictures. I admired her from afar when she was doing such magnificent spectacles as Cleopatra. and I was just an extra. Today, she is the wife of one of our leading film directors. I've known her for many years as a most charming and gracious lady, and I want you to meet her now, Miss Theda Bara.
Thank you, Woody. Our Hollywood entertainment has certainly developed amazingly since I was making pictures.
Yes, everything's different now.
As you and I know, before pictures grew up and started to talk, we had to translate all emotion into pantomime. Oh, you may think you have trouble today, but do you remember the difficulties we had working with a split screen? We had to express jealousy, hate, love, or devotion, all in pantomime, and at the same time keep pace as the director guided us with a 1, 2, 3, 4, just as a metronome guides a pianist.
Pantomime has always been one of the greatest of arts. And may I say, Miss Bara, I have always thought that you were one of the greatest masters of that art.
Oh, you're very kind, Woody. We worked awfully hard making those pictures. For instance, in making Cleopatra, we had no research department at the studio. I worked myself for months with the curator of Egyptology at the Metropolitan Museum in New York. It was great fun, though.
I understand, Miss Bara, you're going to make some radio appearances.
Yes, I am. And I'm also going to do some motion picture work.
Oh, that's good news.
I'm considering an offer now, running through scripts and ideas. Oh, I just hope everyone will be as happy about another Theda Bara picture as I am. The public has been very good to me in the past.
And I know they'll be awfully glad to see you again. I'm sure it'll be a great thrill not only seeing you, but hearing your voice. Thanks, Miss Bara, for joining us tonight.
I'm glad I could. Good night.
Now, the public never did get to hear Miss Bara again, either on the big screen or, with a single exception, on radio, even though her charming voice would have served her well on the air.
Oh, not very well, I'm afraid, Harry.
The same cannot be said of Blanche Sweet, whose voice was perhaps too overcoached or overdone for radio theatre.
Along with the Gish and Talmadge sisters, Mary Pickford and Marguerite Clark, Blanche Sweet will always be remembered among Hollywood's favorite stars of the silent screen. Discovered by D.W. Griffith, Blanche was in no small measure responsible for the box office competition he constantly gave me. I thought the best way to remove the competition was to acquire the star, which I did. 1 million miles of film have run through Hollywood's cameras since then. But as I welcome her tonight, I see the same charming Blanche with the lovely blue eyes, who brought to silent pictures the eloquence of a great performer. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Blanche Sweet.
Thank you, Cecil, and thank you all. Rather amazing, isn't it, to think back to what pictures were like when you and I began, long before we ever dreamed of speaking to each other with a microphone between us. You know, I was just 13 when I made my film debut with the old Edison Company back in New York. My salary was the staggering sum of $3 a day. And I remember my first Hollywood film for Mr. Griffith at Biograph. It was a one-reel thriller called The Lonedale Operator. At that time, you know, the names of the cast were never mentioned by the leading studios, and Biograph made it a point to always withhold the identity of their players. Then, names were advertised by independent companies, who chose this as a new means to combat opposition. So quite unwittingly did the system featuring star personalities come into being.
Which do you remember, Blanche, as the most outstanding films of your career?
Well, now, Cecil, that's not for me to say. But I particularly liked doing Tess of the D'Urbervilles, Anna Christie, Judith of Bethulia, and, of course, your own production, The Warrens of Virginia.
Recently, many of us saw you on the stage, playing with Leslie Howard in Petrified Forest. After your success in that, have you any thought of returning to pictures?
Well, I'm due back in New York this spring for a play. I leave next month and expect to go into rehearsal soon after. I'll miss listening to your program, Cecil, when I'm in the theater. But I assure you I don't have to be reminded to keep on using Lux toilet soap. Mm-hmm. I hope I'm not a fussy individual, but I am particular about what I use for my complexion. I've used Lux toilet soap for many years, and I'm glad to have this opportunity of saying what a marvelous beauty care it is. Now, thank you again. Goodbye.
Sweet, isn't it?
Radio required a new kind of acting, a voice that could be emotive in close-up, a voice that did not have to be thrown across the stage. It also required good readers. Here is Gloria Swanson making a melodramatic mess of a rather run-of-the-mill radio thriller.
I guess so. I'm awfully sorry, Harry. I know I promised to... I hear the doctors keep talking about schizophrenia. That's a double personality, you know. They seem to think I did all those things without even knowing it. Drowning Ned. Trying to kill Cora. That's what the spells were, they say. The other personality. Like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. But I wish I could talk to Dr. Winter. I went to him first about the spells. He said he could cure me if I told him the truth. Only, of course, I can't talk to him now. He's dead. I
killed him. On the Lux Radio Theatre, at least, silent screen actresses were in the welcoming presence of Cecil B Demille, a director who had made a name for himself long before pictures began to talk. For a chance to stage a comeback or stay alive in the memory of the public, actresses like Miss Swanson would do almost anything.
Why, I've been right here, Harry.
Be it the hawking of soap or the trilling of tunes.
Oh, don't bother me with things like that now.
I think that discoveries are accidents designed by destiny. A fabulous fortune and hundreds of the jewels women now wear were found in South Africa because a Dutch farmer happened to notice a group of children playing marbles. The marbles were diamonds and led to the opening of one of the richest mines in the world. It was also by accident that I myself once discovered a diamond in the rough. In fact, it was in the rough and tumble action of a Keystone comedy that I saw her. And just the way she leaned against the door conveyed to me an appeal that I knew would intrigue the world. I took her out of comedies and made her the star of 6 DeMille productions. She was an absolutely new type of heroine, because most of the heroines who preceded her were sweet and charming ingenues, while all the sirens were evil women and heavies. She combined the best qualities of both and became the screen's first romantic siren who was not a villainess. This famous young woman was the first of many screen stars who can truly be said to have possessed glamour. She did more than any girl before or since to make Hollywood the fashion center of the world. And she now steps to the microphone just as fascinating as she was then. Ladies and gentlemen, Gloria Swanson.
You're very generous. I changed the old adage of hitch your wagon to a star and hitched mine to a director and became a star.
That's just modesty, Gloria. You're talking through that pretty little brown and white turban of yours.
As a matter of fact, ladies and gentlemen, I just happen to fit into the DeMille scheme of things, which consisted of putting realism, beauty, style, and sophistication on the screen.
You're one of the world's most exotic women. It just happens that you're also a very good actress.
No, all women are good actresses. And I still insist, ladies and gentlemen, that it was Mr. DeMille's daring that made me a star. Until he produced Old Wives for New, every picture followed the same formula. A boy met a girl, lost her for a while, and then finished the picture by marrying her. Mr. DeMille took the story up from there. So producers believed that you couldn't make a successful picture about a husband and wife. Mr. DeMille made one, and thereby made history. It was a great success and introduced the social drama to the screen.
It wasn't my daring that people talked about. It was yours. Do you remember the scene in Male and Female? When we duplicated the famous painting, The Lion's Bride, and had a lion crouched above you with its claws on your bare back, while a trainer cracked a whip in its face to make it snarl?
Yes, Mr. DeMille, I remember.
Now, I've got a scene in my present picture that...
I'm very sorry, but I'm not as daring now as I was then.
Well, you're just as charming. I never saw you look more beautiful.
That's Lux.
Now, what's that spell?
Oh, shame. Go to the bottom of the class. That spells Lux.
Oh, yes.
Lux is my favorite beauty soap, and now, through its radio theater, you and I meet again for the first time in nearly 7 years.
Then before we say goodnight, I'd like to give you one final bit of direction.
What is it?
Sing for us.
Well, I don't pretend to be a singer, but if you're willing to risk my singing on your program, so am I. I'll sing None But the Lonely Heart by Tchaikovsky.
Please.
One of the media-savviest silent screen actresses was Mary Pickford, who, in 1936, dared to compete with Hearst columnist Luella Parsons' Hollywood Hotel.
Well, here we are, Luella, right down here with all the glorious men and women. Let's have a...
I've never seen so many beautiful ladies and such handsome gentlemen. Hello, Jerome. I haven't seen you since, just last week in Lloyd's of London.
Well, I wouldn't miss this, Luella. You couldn't keep me away.
Unfortunately, parties at Pickfair, which did not succeed in attracting either major stars or sponsors, have disappeared into thin air. Yet long after she retired from the screen, Pickford remained active in Hollywood, using radio to reach the multitude. Here she is in 1941, speaking on behalf of the motion picture industry.
I'm here tonight on a very important mission. I come not as Mary Pickford, but as a representative of the entire motion picture industry. Tonight, you know, marks the end of our third season of Gulf Green Guild Theater broadcasts. 3 seasons of accomplishment. During the past 3 years, Gulf has contributed generously to the Motion Picture Relief Fund, making possible the building of a home to provide for the aged and needy of our industry. During this period also, Gulf has helped raise the standard of radio dramatic entertainment by the intelligent presentation of motion picture stars in carefully written, skillfully directed stories, enabling the stars to bring to the great radio audience the values of personality and performance that made them famous on the screen. For these reasons, the motion picture industry awards this silver plaque to the Gulf Oil Company. I'd like to read the plaque's inscription to you. It says, awarded to the Gulf Oil Company for eminent achievement in furthering the advancement of the allied arts of motion pictures and radio through the medium of the Gulf Green Guild Theater. The plaque is signed by Edward Arnold, President of the Screen Actors Guild, Sheridan Gibney, President of the Screenwriters Guild, Frank Capra, President of the Screen Directors Guild, and Y.F. Freeman, President of the Association of Motion Picture Producers. May this always be a symbol of the high regard in which the motion picture industry holds the Gulf Green Guild Theater.
I hope you enjoyed listening along with me during this experiment in podcasting. Tune in again, won't you? In the meantime, if you would like to get in touch, perhaps suggest a topic for a future podcast, visit my blog or website by following the link above. Hear you around.
Good night, Harry.
Oh, I still love the radio, although television is fine. A wife, if she's truthful, will make this admission. Against those plunging necklines, there's too much competition. Oh, there's nothing like radio for having a wonderful time.